Check. 1, 2, 3.
The D.
Brief.
This is the D Brief.
Go. Your guide to Detroit.
Your guide to Detroit's
arts and entertainment scene.
This is the D
Brief.
Hello and welcome to The Debrief, your podcast for Detroit concerts, comedy, plays, food, drink, and more. It is Wednesday, May 15th, 2019. My name is Seth Wrestler, and I'm your co-host.
And I'm your other co-host, Becky Scarcello.
All right. For those of you who have never listened to the podcast, I don't really know Detroit that well. I've lived here for about 4 years. I'm still learning my way around, and you are my guide. You are my, what is it from Dante's Inferno? You're my Beatrice, right?
Yes, that fits. Yeah.
Although it makes it sound like you're leading me through hell, so maybe that's not
well,
the best
sometimes
analogy.
that's the case. You know, there's both, but yeah.
Here's what's happening on today's show. First of all, I have been told forever that the best place to get sushi in the Metro Detroit area is in Clawson. Mm-hmm. I know this place well because I lived in Clawson, and this place has gotten bigger. We'll tell you about it.
And I'm going to talk to you about having a little weed with your dinner.
Well, that's normal.
Yeah.
Right? Sure, why not? Don't forget, on Friday's episode, we have Detroit Vineyards. This is the first winery in Detroit in 6 decades, just opened up a week ago, and we are going to have Blake Kaunacki, who is the founder and the guy behind it all. He's going to come on the podcast, so you're definitely going to want to check that out. Let's get into the show and meet today's co-host.
This is the D.
Want to welcome back for day number 2, the executive director of Arts and Scraps. Arts and Scraps is this organization which takes recycled materials and then provides hands-on learning and creative experiences for kids through programs. They do this at their facility in Southeast Michigan, and the emphasis, of course, is on STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math. That's the type of education. Welcome back, Ang Adamiak.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah.
We had a lot of fun.
I know.
Just because
this is great.
you're a Trekkie, so we're like, we got to get her back for a second day.
Automatically star.
Anybody who can, go toe-to-toe with me when it comes to nerd culture is welcome back on the show. So, again, remind us, for people who are unfamiliar with Arts and Scraps, what does the organization do?
Yeah, so Arts and Scraps uses recycled materials of all different kinds. We usually take about 28 tons of material out of the waste stream a year.
Wow.
And we use them for educational experiences as well as having a community store on the east side of Detroit.
And you've been the executive director for a year now.
Yeah.
But you've worked there for several years,
yes,
right?
Yep, about 6 years. Yeah.
And what do you love about being there?
Oh my gosh, so many things. Every day is different there because there's no such thing as ordering garbage, so you never know what the day's going to look like. But it's a really incredible place that touches the community in so many ways. Our educational programs serve about 50,000 kids a year, which is crazy. But on top of that, at our community store, we get to work with artists and entrepreneurs and families and anybody and everybody. It's a really cool melting pot intersection of people from all over, which is great.
You started as an artist, right?
Yeah. I've worked with kids since I was one, and I've been creative my whole life. So, I started really in like fiber art, so sewing and knitting and making whatever you can out of whatever kind of fiber I can find.
So that's a
fiber artist.
I am unfamiliar with that term. Fiber artist.
Fiber artist.
I feel like I need to eat more of that. I don't feel like I get enough fiber art in my diet.
Different kinds.
But my mom and my grandmothers were both fiber artists as well. So I started in that and then moved to pottery. And now that I have less time to get to a studio, I'm doing jewelry and drawing and things like that.
But you're making 3D tactile things through most of your career.
For sure. Yep.
Oh, very cool.
Yes, yeah. And I'm familiar with the collective studio that you're part of, Ladybug.
Yes,
Can you
Ladybug Studios.
Tell us about that in Southwest Detroit.
Yeah, so it's a clay collective in Southwest, so on Hubbard Street. And we actually have open houses for the community every third Saturday from 10 to 1, so come on by. But it's a really cool place to be able to have an affordable place to have access to clay making because doing pottery can be really expensive.
Sure.
And so a bunch of artists came together and made space for them to be able to do their art together. So it's a really dynamic, great group of people as well. So
Yeah, and the work is beautiful.
Yes.
I just saw so many unique things
we
there.
have so many amazing artists that are part of our collective. Yeah.
And for Arts and Scraps, I mean, obviously, kids can take the classes, and there's the storefront, so people can go buy stuff.
Yeah. So if you're a parent or grandparent or just hang out with random kids in your life, I'm an aunt. It's a great place to take kids on a Saturday or over the summer or something like that. You can shop a bag of recycled materials for $4.50, which we try and be as accessible as possible for everyone. And then you can make whatever you want with that stuff in our classroom space. So you don't have to take the mess home.
Nice, yeah.
Are there other ways for people to get involved with the organization?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're always looking for people to support financially. If you want to sponsor us going to some crazy event, we go to big events all year long, but then we really run on volunteers. We work with about 10,000 hours of donated volunteer hours a year. So you can always check our website, artsandscraps.org, or for volunteer opportunities, check out Volunteer Match and search for Arts and Scraps.
You also take physical donations,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
So
Yes.
if people have fabric scraps
Yep.
or CDs and
Yeah.
anything like that, they can drop them off?
Yep. And there's a good list on our website of like what we do want and what we don't want. So check that list. But really, almost anything crafty. I always tell people we're kind of like a thrift store, but for creative stuff.
Wait, I want to know what's on the no list. Coffee grounds.
Mattresses.
Well, here's the thing about Arts and Scraps. If we have one of something, everyone will see it, and then we'll have 10,000 of that.
Ah.
So, like, we don't take any kind of clothing because otherwise we'd be a thrift store. We don't
Yes.
take anything that can be recycled in your recycling bin because, one, it has a place for it already, and two, we would have nothing but milk cartons. So
Right.
Yeah.
we really try and stick to, like, materials that can be good for creative projects, no matter what that means.
Oh, very cool. Well, look, we're glad you're back. Hang out and enjoy the show.
Glad to be here.
The D. The D.
Brief Detroit.
Becky, let's talk about what's going on in the world of food and drink.
I would love to. So start with this. What do you guys look for in a great bar? You know, you're wanting to go to a bar. What kind of elements do you like?
I'm a big ambiance person.
Okay.
It's got to be like a really fun, interesting atmosphere for me to go.
Yeah, but what does that mean? Are you like,
Like the
swanky?
decor,
You like
or-
dive bar?
It depends on the occasion, man. Like, that's the whole point of it. Sometimes you want a dive bar. Sometimes you want to go somewhere interesting and different, like a historic building, or I don't know. There's so many different kinds of places you can go.
I do like dive bars, but I like when there's 5 or 6 that are in close walking distance
do a
to
little
each
bar
other.
crawl.
So you can do a little bar crawl.
I like
thing.
that.
You know, there's only so long I can spend in a single dive bar. I'm not a
Right.
sports guy. I don't like
I don't like
a
sports
million
bars.
TVs
No.
on in the
No.
background.
I'm
Yeah.
more of a patio person.
Oh,
Yes.
I
Good
love the
patio.
outdoor. Yeah, love the outdoor spaces.
And I love a bartender who is a mixologist and who can talk to you about what's in a
Yes,
cocktail
me too.
and knows how to make a cocktail with cucumbers or egg whites.
I
or-
love asking if you start to develop a rapport with a bartender I like asking them to make me something.
Yes.
You know, and they'll ask a few things about my flavor profiles and whatnot, and then come up with something. I love that.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. So I bring it up because one of Detroit's bars was recently named one of the best in the country. So Detroit's Mutiny Bar, it's over there in Southwest Detroit, was named one of the best tiki bars in America by the Food Network. I love a good tiki bar. This place is great.
It's a really fun place.
Yeah, it's just decked out. You feel like you're on vacation.
This is the new trend, isn't it? Tiki bars.
It is a fairly trendy thing. Yeah.
And for people who may be unfamiliar, a tiki bar is
Yeah, so it's
basically
like tropical vacation where there's, you know, the straw huts and there's like
Palm
fish on
trees
the
and-
wall and all the drinks are, you know, some kind of fruity mixed concoction.
a lot of rum.
Lots of rum. You always have the different glasses, like they'll look like carved or they'll look like fish or, you know,
Right,
have the
well,
twirly straws and the umbrellas.
Right, the kinds of things that would come to life in a very special episode of The Brady Bunch.
Yes, exactly. Like at Mutiny Bar, they have that classic painkiller, rum, coconut, lime, orange, pineapple kind of thing. But they also have some real interesting twists. So now we also have Lost River Tiki Bar that's on the east side. But I think when they were doing this the awards. Mutiny Bar was really the only tiki one we had in Detroit, but it's well worth going to, and it's down the street from L Club, so it makes kind of a good little crawl there. So I brought up pot. Have you ever smoked pot, and have you ever eaten pot? I want to know.
I actually haven't.
You've never?
Well, my dad's a cop, so.
Oh, and
Okay.
it's
My
legal
mom,
now.
my mom was a pastor. My dad was a police officer, so it
Oh,
was
you
like
got
a
both
bless them and
sides.
arrest them kind of house.
Oh, wow. I never did as a kid. I have since. I mean, I think a couple times in college, and it's never been my
Your thing.
It's never been my I mean, I much prefer the beer belly.
Yes. Well, it suits you. Yeah.
We've all got our vice.
Yeah.
Better. I mean, honestly, like I'd be in a lot better shape if I did. I probably should.
Yeah.
And I actually prefer to smoke it than the edibles.
That's a whole body high. Yeah.
I've had bad trips off of gummy bears, and you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, I didn't know you could have bad trips off of pot. I always thought that was just
sure.
other drinks, or other
substances.
which I don't partake in. But
Yeah, so I bring this up because, Michigan legalized recreational marijuana back in the fall. It's November. And so there's kind of this new trend of just foodie types adding the cannabis and the CBD to food.
that makes sense.
And having dinner parties, and kind of like foregoing the wine pairing and the beer stuff,
interesting.
just, aiming for no hangover, I think, and just sort of exploring the ways you can use it.
Now, are we talking house parties here, or this is?
Yeah, because, it's still like, I don't think restaurants can legally do this. Maybe. I don't know. That's a good question.
Yeah.
There might
It's
be
all shifting so quickly right now.
Yeah, I think nobody knows
Right.
because CBD was approved, and so there were some smoothie bars putting it in smoothies and stuff, but then that got pulled. It was so
I'm a big believer in
back
farm
and
to table pot. I think that's really important.
Exactly.
Right?
Locally
Organically, I
grown.
want to know that it comes from the collective,
exactly.
the urban garden pot.
But really, there's different strains that give you different types of high. So people are really specializing in like, what does that mean with your food, and kind of doing like smoke a course, eat a course. So it's just
interesting.
fascinating.
Well,
yeah.
you know what would be interesting is I'm really excited to pull the grill out of the shed for the summer. The big Weber. And
Sprinkle some in.
Well, we smoke things. You got a smoker tube, and you put the wooden pellets in there, and essentially allows you to smoke meats. I think it would be interesting to put some pot pellets in there at the same time.
Infused, yeah.
There you go.
So yeah, there's a guy that Channel 7 actually interviewed him. He's a chef and a dispensary owner, so uniquely placed to do these things. So he was talking about things like cannabis butter, CBD olive oil on the fish, putting it in chocolate fondue. But he did say, THC can be very potent, so be careful. This is not just for your average home cook throwing some in. You got to kind of know what you're doing.
So infusion's out, my friend.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm going to do a little research, but so this isn't exactly a food event, but I thought I'd bring it up. So I love the zoo. You guys know I live right by the zoo, but I have no tolerance anymore for like the little kids and the strollers and stuff at the zoo, which I know
over it?
sounds crazy because I'm a mom.
That was just a phase.
It was, I'm kind of like, I love my kids, but I don't like particularly like other people's kids.
They're going to have kids at some point, right?
Then I will like them again.
Oh, yes.
Yes, if they have
It comes
my
around.
blood,
It goes
I
in
like
waves,
it.
really.
And I'll be like older and probably more patient stuff by then.
A couple more self-help books. And
Yes,
we'll get
and
you
then
there.
actually do the things. Yeah. So, but I just think this is great. I love that the zoo does this. They have Detroit Zoo after hours, so you can go 18 and up. It's in the evening. You can bring a date. You can bring your friends, whatever, but don't bring kids. And you can have beverages. So, they sell beer and wine, and you can see the animals more active.
Yeah,
'cause
after
they're-
hour at the zoo is the best.
Yeah, because they're usually sleeping when it's, 85 out or whatever and the
sunny.
bright sun.
Yes.
So
So here's a question. What would happen if you had pot-infused cocktails
at the
At
at
the
the
zoo.
zoo?
That
I
could be
think you'd have
cool.
some high animals.
Yeah.
I think is what would happen.
Yeah, you're right.
I'm not going to lie.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a new baby snow monkey there too.
I know.
So yeah, lots
That's
of
exciting.
babies. So I said,
Wait. Just to clarify,
What?
you don't like the human babies, but you're all in
animal
on the
babies.
snow monkey babies.
absolutely.
I'm sure she'd like other people's kids if they were behind some glass as well.
Right. Just get those strollers out of my way. I gotta keep walking. All right. Can we move on to sushi?
Yes, I love sushi.
Yeah. So I wanted you to talk about this expanded Noble Fish in Clawson because I know you said you stopped in.
Yeah, I used to live basically a block from in the only apartment building in Clawson.
Yes. And not a high rise.
Not a high rise. But a block away is Noble Fish, which I had always heard was the best sushi in the Metro Detroit area. And so we would go over there. But it was basically a little Asian convenience store. And then you would go into the back and you could order sushi. You'd have to, fill out the little sheet. And they could, I don't know, maybe sit 10 people
at most,
generously.
Like at that crowded counter.
Right, like I never sat at the counter and in that back area because even after you ordered, you have to wait at least at least an hour for your food to show up.
Oh, wow.
Right, so I would go put my order in
Go do
and
some
then
stuff.
go home, like do a load of laundry and come back. And it's great sushi. It's absolutely fantastic. So, the big announcement a while back was that they're expanding.
Yeah, they bought
exciting.
took over 2 other storefronts.
Yes,
Wow.
yes,
To
because
move
there was a
into, yeah.
storefront
That's a lot
next to
of
them,
space.
Yeah.
which front might be the right word.
Yeah. A salon of sorts, right? Yeah.
Right. So I was in Clawson over the weekend getting a haircut, and I actually popped
Not
in.
at that salon.
Not at that salon. No.
Different place.
I popped into Noble Fish because I wanted to see what it was all about. And they have taken, they basically, the store that they took over, they have now, that's up and running.
Okay.
But the original store, I think they're still working on. Like, I think there's more expansion yet to come.
Yeah, I read they still want to
cool.
expand the grocery part and add some more seats.
Yes, because there was no grocery
Yeah.
part there.
Before, yeah.
No, now, when I walked in.
Oh.
Like that's...
Yeah, before there was, but it's tiny.
Right.
Now yeah.
Yeah. So I walked in. This is 11 o'clock in the morning, mind you, that I walk in. And I'm like, okay, I'm just going to sit down and have some sushi. And sure enough, there's more tables and everything else. And the woman at the, at the hostess says, oh, yeah, it's going to be 35 minutes for your sushi.
Oh.
And I guess that's improvement.
From an hour. Yeah, you said an hour.
But I was kind of thinking it was going to be quicker than that.
Yeah. Well, apparently
they're
they're
still
working on
transitioning.
They're streamlining.
It's a popular place.
Yeah.
That's great.
Super good.
That's how you know it's good.
This is the D.
Detroit
This is the D.
Brave.
All right, let's take a quick second here just to let you know about Michigan Podcast Productions. Here's the deal. Becky and I, we just keep getting the same question over and over and over from people who have been on the podcast or fans of the podcast who work at arts and entertainment organizations. And they're all saying,
I should start a podcast. People are telling me I should start a podcast, but how do I do it?
yes, and you should start a podcast. It's actually great for arts and entertainment organizations, a way to keep in touch with your fans, because your fans probably don't come in and visit you every day.
Right.
They probably visit you once a year or every couple of months or whatever it is. And so this is a great way to stay top of mind and stay connected to those fans. So we have launched Michigan Podcast Productions with a very simple mission. We are helping Detroit arts and entertainment organizations launch their own podcast. We'll focus on all the technical stuff, help you conceptualize the show, all that kind of stuff, so you can just work on the content. Yeah. If you want all the details, go to MichiganPodcastProductions.com, check it out, get some information, and if you're interested, please reach out to us.
This is the D. Breathe.
All right, here's what caught my eye this week. Yeah, that's the appropriate reaction. There is a new film coming out that is set in Detroit. And as far as I can tell, that's the only connection it has. It's just set in Detroit. I don't
Not
think there's
the
any
people involved,
Yeah, I
or-
don't think so.
Okay.
It is called Loquisha.
Okay.
And I showed you both the trailer before we started recording tonight. Did it make you squirm?
Yes.
Yeah, my reaction was oof.
It's,
It's like, whoa.
Yeah. Here's the deal. This is a film about a white man pretending to be a black woman so that he can get ahead in his career.
Naturally. Yeah. That's the surest,
That's how it works,
surest
right?
path.
No.
That's a surest path to get ahead.
Yeah, it's written, directed, and starring Jeremy Saville. He plays a Detroit bartender who becomes a huge radio celebrity when he impersonates an outspoken black woman
In Detroit.
in Detroit. Film critics in real life are already up in arms, including Charles M. Blow of the New York Times, who tweeted, "What in the blackface hell is this?"
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You got it, Charles.
I got to tell you, we watched that trailer and it felt very dated.
It did.
painful to watch.
Didn't
It
it?
would. Yeah, it seemed like if here's a movie from a lot of years ago.
Right.
Lot
where
of years ago.
you know, I don't think people would have been as sensitive
It was just
to this
more-
20, 30 years ago. You know,
Right.
I am over this as a genre. I am over here's a person who pretends to be somebody
yeah.
who's different than them. And there
Yes.
have been some good
Sure,
films and that,
sure,
you know, some Like It Hot
I
was a
love
good
that
film.
movie.
What's the one? Is it Mr. Mom?
Oh yeah.
Sure.
Was a good one. Mrs. Doubtfire, of course.
Yeah, yeah.
But after
Tootsie.
that,
Tootsie,
Tootsie was
yeah.
a good one.
what I was thinking of.
You know, after that, I kind of just, I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, it's also partially because we allow for movies that old to do some things that we wouldn't do now.
right.
Yes.
You just have different
So
standards.
That's part of it as well.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, but and the other thing is that this didn't. It just didn't look fun.
It didn't look funny
No.
even.
But I'll tell you the other thing that made me feel that it was dated
Mm-hmm.
was this whole idea of somebody gets on the radio and then becomes a huge celebrity. I mean, as a guy who's been in the radio industry for 20 years,
So that's your main problem with it.
I'm
This is
adding to
basic
the
reality.
list of
I'm not
grievances.
a star yet.
No.
I'm not saying my grievance carries as
No,
much
I know.
weight
Thank you.
as
Yes,
other people's
thank you.
grievances.
Appreciate that.
I'm just saying there's more on top of that. You know,
That's-
there's
there's
this
so
idea
many
that
things wrong with this.
I'm glad that you gave us your very unique white man perspective
I
on
know.
there you go. So I'll add that to the list. The
It's
San
so
Luis
unrealistic.
the San Luis Obispo Film Festival, whose laurels, you know, the little credits
Yes.
appear at the beginning of the trailer. They're distancing themselves from the film. They're
Yeah, I
like,
saw that.
Good.
It wasn't even real. They're saying
right,
it
they're
wasn't
like,
even
we
real.
don't even know who this guy is or why we're in the. We got nothing to do with this. Seville has not commented at this point. You know, as of the time
Not
that we're recording this,
defending
nothing.
or
What he did do is he posted on Instagram a photo of himself standing next to Marlon Wayans, who is of course black.
Oh, so he was like posting it like, look, I have black friends.
It was kind of like the Instagram version of "I'm not racist, I have black friends."
Ay,
Check my Instagram account,
Oh,
which is
man.
How does this person not have people in his life that said like,
Say-
"Hey, dude,
This
this is
is-
a bad
this is-
idea"?
How
yeah,
does
this
he
is
go
a bad idea.
that far with
Yeah,
it?
that's what I'm thinking.
Wayans responded on Twitter saying, quote, "I hate it when people tag me in their bleep. It's annoying as bleep."
In other words, I am not a friend of yours.
Yeah,
The film is supposedly out July 12th. Watch the trailer. It will make you cringe.
And it's called LaQuisha.
And it's called LaQuisha.
Okay.
Yeah.
or don't.
This is the D.
Detroit.
This is the D.
Brave.
Or don't. That's a good idea.
Just
Yeah.
saying they don't need the views.
That's right.
All right. That's it. That's another show for us. Ange, thank you so much for coming back on the
Yes.
show.
Thanks for having me.
A couple of things before we get out of here. First of all, like I said, we have a ton of things that we talk about in this show.
So
if you
much.
would like links to some of the stuff that we've talked about in this show, all you have to do is go over to our website, thedebriefdetroit.com. And while you're there, sign up for our email list. We will email you a list of links to everything that we talk about on the show.
Or you can simply text the word Detroit to 444-999.
You can do that. That's easy as well. Ange, we got one more thing you got to do before we get out of here. You ready?
Alrighty.
All right, here's how this works. We're going to ask you for a series of rapid fire recommendations. Just tell us the first thing that comes to your mind.
I'm gonna do my best.
All right, here we go. You know, you're into art.
True story.
Do you have a favorite Detroit museum?
Oh, honestly, Motown Museum.
Ooh.
Motown Museum, if you were to just go in and walk around, not as impressive, but they have incredible tour guides that give you an amazing experience. Highly, highly recommend.
I second that. How about a favorite Detroit artist?
Oh, that's so hard. I will just say who I've been into lately. I like a lot of street art, and I've been really into Malt lately.
Oh my God, I love him.
I
yeah.
love Malt.
All right, I'll bite. Who's Malt?
He's a street artist that does murals. A lot of it is very geometric.
Where do I find these murals?
One of my favorites is on Grand River and like just north, quote unquote, of MLK.
There's a big one right in Eastern Market on Russell Street.
That's a good one.
It's a pairing with him and Fell 3,000 Feet. And he does a lot of birds, like you said, owls. There's some on the DeQuinder Cut. He's pretty prolific.
He's really great.
There's one in Berkeley even.
Well, while we're on the topic, do you have a favorite monument in Detroit?
Oh, I don't know if this counts, but I'm going to say it anyway. Scott Fountain on Belle Isle is
that's
my
a good
absolute
choice.
favorite. There's a bench where you can be looking at the fountain if you're looking straight, the conservatory if you're looking left, and downtown if you're looking right.
Nice.
And it's over the water, and it's perfect.
Where did I read the story about the guy behind that fountain? Because he was a jerk,
man.
right?
Yes.
Like he's
Yeah.
You know that story?
Tell
It's
it
such
to
a
me.
good story. So James Scott is the guy that gave the money for the fountain, but when he gave the money, he said, I want it to be a small fountain and a huge statue of me. And everybody hated him, so they said, yep, we'll take your money. But then after he died, they changed it and did a huge fountain and a small statue of him. His only other thing is that he said that he did not want to be sitting because he hated children and didn't want them crawling all over him. So they, of course, made him sitting. So you have to go, you have to sit on his lap and take a selfie on his lap.
Yep.
Yeah, total jerk.
That's it. What's your favorite Detroit neighborhood?
Oh man, that's a hard one.
Or top two?
Top two. If I did top two, I would say my own neighborhood, which is LaSalle Gardens. It's like a tiny, beautiful pocket neighborhood that has a really close-knit community. And then the other one I would say is like Livernois, 6-7 mile around there. It has tons of fun, good restaurant and shopping and tons of little festivals and all kinds of fun stuff going on up there.
Nice. Who is a Detroiter whose name everyone should know?
Charles Lang Freer.
Good one.
Charles Lang Freer is kind of the father of how we curate museums today. And I don't think he was born in Detroit, but he lived in Detroit for a really long time. He was friends with the woman that founded Pewabic Pottery and kind of curated his art collection and how it was curated. Eventually convinced the DIA to curate that way, and
So
then people
Yes.
spread around the country.
maybe this is a dumb question, but I don't follow trends in curation.
No, that's a good question.
What do you mean how are we doing it before? And this guy came along and was like alphabetical, and everybody's like, oh my God.
Well, that's the thing. So you don't really notice. Curation is one of those things that if it's done really well, you don't notice it.
Right.
Correct.
And so to give you, for instance, I love the DIA. I go there all the time. My husband and I go there all the time. And he's not a really like art theory kind of guy. We went to the Chicago Museum of Art, and it was beautiful. They had a great collection, but it was curated super differently. And he literally was like, is it me or is this place kind of weird? Like, I'm like bumping into things and like I feel like I missed half the paintings. And I'm like, yeah, it's curated differently. That's really what it means. It's the lighting, it's the layout, it's the
mix
ambiance,
of things
the music,
that are put together.
how it's put together. Yep. So instead of saying like, the way I explained it to him was like, you can either say we're going to have all the artists or all the art from one artist in one room, or you can say we're going to curate this room on a theme. So it's almost like a musical album instead of just an artist. Does that make sense?
Sort of. The
signage and the things that you interact with to find out what
the one place I really noticed it was the Mob Museum in Las Vegas, which I thought was terrible, even though
you notice curation when it's bad.
TripAdvisor, and I like I got to the end of it, and TripAdvisor, everybody's like, oh, you gotta go see this, and and you'd think would be really like that'd be cool,
yeah.
And I got to the end of it, and I'm like, I don't understand
What just
the
happened here?
history of the mob any better than when I first entered this museum.
Yeah.
Like I have no concept of chronologically what happened,
Sure.
or it was weird. That
It
was
didn't
the first
tell
time
the
I
story.
noticed it. Yeah.
Well, and just like I said, Motown Museum's perfect example of that.
Yes.
Because the stuff is stuff, but if you have somebody telling the story and the signs to tell the story and the sounds, all those things, that's curation.
Now, of course, I'm going to wind up at the bottom of a river because some museum curator is going to fit me for cement shoes.
Exactly. That's exactly what I was thinking. All right. What's the first place you take out-of-town visitors?
That's a good question. Usually Campus Martius, just because most of our out-of-town visitors, I grew up in Michigan, so a lot of them haven't been to downtown in a long time, but have been there before. And so seeing that difference for them kind of helps me open the door for other places.
That's great.
You've already given us a couple, but you seem like you'd be good at this. What is your favorite weird Detroit trivia fact?
Oh, gosh. It's not my favorite, but the only one that's coming to mind is that we have the only floating post office in the world.
Oh, yeah. This is the one right in
Yeah.
the middle of the river there. Mm-hmm. All right.
You passed.
You passed. I was tallying up the grades.
Yeah. What's the prizes again?
Past is very
self-esteem.
loose.
Yes.
You won self-esteem
And gratitude.
and gratitude.
I'll take it.
Yeah.
Make art out of that. Why don't you?
It's beautiful.
And Adam, man, thank you so much for coming in. You're the executive director of Arts and Scraps. And what's the website again if people want to find out more about it and get involved?
Artsandscraps.org.
And where can they go visit?
We're over on the east side, right off Harper and 94.
Well, it was absolutely fantastic to have you on. You were a lot of fun. Thank you so much for joining
Yeah,
us.
thanks so
Yes.
much for having me.
You could definitely run this show, I think.
Oh,
Jason.
absolutely. Yeah, you're welcome back anytime.
Full of the Detroit inspiration.
Until then, Detroit's moving.
Keep up.
The D-Brief.
Your guide to Detroit's arts and entertainment scene.
Hi, Craig Foley here. If you're listening to the Debrief podcast, well, I've got two things to say to you. One, you have impeccable taste. Two, you care about the community that is Metro Detroit. That's why I think you'd appreciate my daily show, The Craig Foley Show on Deadline Detroit. Every weekday, I tackle the big issues in politics, business, arts and culture, sports. Whatever's on the mind of Detroiters and Michiganders, we will talk about it. It's all open for discussion. And keep this in mind. News doesn't have to be boring. Sure, we talk about serious stories and we have interviews and commentary, but we do it in a way that, if I'm doing my job right, is informative but also entertaining. Check out The Craig Foley Show on Deadline Detroit for news, knowledge, hopefully some fun tossed in.
Interested in hearing from folks in the craft beer industry? Tune in monthly to the Beer Tour Guy podcast. I'm your host, Steve Johnson, and I'm the owner-operator of Motor City Brew Tours. And since 2009, I've taken 25,000 people to enjoy the best beer, cider, and mead being made in Southeast Michigan and beyond. On the Beer Tour Guy podcast, monthly I interview folks working in the industry where you can learn more about what's going on in the industry and in other tours that I'm offering in my tour company. If you'd like to learn more about our show, Beer Tour Guy, or Motor City Brew Tours, visit motorcitybrewtours.com.